Hi guys, and welcome back. So in today's video I'm going to be bringing you along on my first ever aquascaping contest. So this was back in February and it was for the Tetra Aquatics Festival. I was invited by Tetra to come to Mel in Germany to visit their facilities. So I visited the Tetra Lab, I visited the Tetra Museum. The whole facility is also where they create bacteria, so the bacteria farm. And then the last few days was this scaping competition. So yeah, I was quite nervous, and a little later on when I had accepted, I actually found out that we would be scaping in groups of 2. So that was a lot of extra pressure, because obviously when you're scaping just by yourself, you just go with whatever idea you have in that moment. You don't have to worry about somebody else's ideas. So when I first got the invite to participate in this aquascaping contest, I was actually quite nervous because I had never done a scaping competition before. It's one thing scaping inside the comfort of your own house with nobody watching you, and it's a whole other story scaping in front of a whole group of people, and especially scaping against people that are actually ranked. So that's a whole other story, right? That's really something that worried me, was working with somebody else, because sometimes you don't have the same kind of scaping styles, the same ideas. Sometimes there can even be, in these kind of competitions, a language barrier. So yeah, it can be quite challenging to scape with somebody else. We didn't actually decide who we wanted to scape with, right? This was decided by the judges themselves. So when I found out that I was going to be scaping with Eloise, I was actually quite relieved. Me and Eloise, we hadn't met before, but we did know of each other through social media. If you guys don't know who Eloise is, Eloise is also, just like me, a content creator. She has her own YouTube channel. She has her Instagram platform where she does a lot of aquarium builds, where she does aquascapes. So if you guys are interested in following Eloise on her socials, I'm going to link them in the description below. This aquascaping competition was hardscape only, so there was no plants, there was none of that. It was just pure hardscape. And for someone like me who is still learning a lot about hardscape placement, this was actually quite a challenge. I'm somebody who's quite good at growing plants, and I rely heavily on plants, in my aquascapes in general. But slowly I am kind of moving away from, having heavily planted tanks, and really right now I'm learning a lot about hardscape. So this for me was kind of a push in the right direction. We had 4 hours to create the scape. The aquarium that you will see is actually, it's a strange size. It's actually quite high and it lacks a lot of depth, so it is really, really not deep. It was an 80-litre tank. So me and Eloise decided from the start that we weren't really going to plan anything for this scape, and we just decided that we were going to wing it, right? Because I don't think either of us are quite good in planning something in advance, and especially in a competition setting, it's not like you can choose your hardscape in advance. So yeah, we just decided to wing it and see how it went. We had kind of a general idea of what we wanted to do, and it turned out nothing like what we had imagined, in a good way, of course. So sadly, during this video, you won't be able to hear sometimes what we are saying to each other with Eloise, because there's a lot of music in the background, and obviously I don't want to get flagged or copyrighted for the music that's blasting in the background. So there's only going to be some moments where you're going to be able to hear each other talking. Okay, so here we go. So as you can see here, we're really deciding on, the pieces of wood we want to choose. Here we started adding the substrate in, and we're placing the bigger pieces of hardscape to plan out the direction of our scape. So here we chose dragonstone. Me and Eloise, we kind of, you know, we have the same style in the sense where we like to start off with some very, very big pieces to kind of find the direction that we're trying to go through. Here we're also choosing the rocks that have the strats in the same direction, because when you're placing them, last thing you want is for a rock to have a pattern in one direction and then the second that you place above it in the other, because visually it's not pleasing at all. So as you can see, the tank is actually quite high, so I actually had a difficulty reaching to the bottom of the tank, so I'm actually standing on a small bucket because obviously when you have like heavy pieces of hardscape, the last thing you want to do is drop it on your tank. Here we're really concentrating on building a nice strong structure. Because the tank is actually so high, we really wanted to occupy a lot of this negative space at the very top of the tank, because the last thing you want to do on a competition is heavily scape the bottom of your tank and then have a lot of negative space at the top, because your tank, especially in a hardscape competition, remember, you're not going to be able to rely on plants to give height sometimes at the back. So here we were really trying to occupy this vertical space as much as we could. So to be able to do that, we were really building a very strong foundation. And obviously some of the pieces were too big, so we did have to break them down to the right size. Yeah, and I actually broke the light. I did fix it though, I did fix it. So also one thing that I hadn't really thought out with this competition is there are a lot of people around you. There are people that are walking past you, that are, you know, looking at your work, that are also commenting on your work. So that can be a lot also when you're trying to concentrate, when you're trying to communicate with somebody that you don't know. It can actually be quite a lot, and you're going to see throughout this whole video that there are also a lot of cameras. And when you're working on your scape and you're trying to concentrate and you have a big light like you have on this one shining in your eyes, when you have somebody that's like sometimes 30 centimeters away from your face trying to get a good shot, that can really throw you off. So again, here we're trying to figure out the direction we want to put the stones in, especially on the vertical scale. We're really concentrating on trying to build height and, you know, still keep this nice aggressive flow. Do bear in mind here that because the tank is actually quite large and we're extremely close, we can't actually see what we're doing when we place the actual piece of wood or rock. We can't see what we're doing. So what we were doing with Eloise is sometimes she would hold the hardscape, I would stand back, tell her what I thought, and then we would swap. And we would constantly do that because the last thing you want to do is fill your tank with hardscape, take a step back and realize that the angles are not right. We were really trying to match all the angles, and like I said, the flow and the strap patterns of the rocks, and same thing for the dragonwood. So here we're trying to figure out the strongest glue points that we wanted to add. Obviously, when you're in the scaping contest, you don't want your glue spots to show. We're not covering this with a piece of moss when we're finished, right? So we're trying to hide as much as we can our glue points. Some of them, what we did that were too visible, we crushed up some of the dragonstone and we dusted it above with a paintbrush to hide our glue spots. And our friend is back. So here we finished the base structure, right, with the stones, and we're going to start to add the wood. What we were trying to do is create a narrow pathway, a narrow opening in between the rocks to create interest, but we found that this path was too thick, right? It was too wide. So we're really trying to narrow down this path to have really a focal point in the middle of the hardscape. So again, we were really trying to give an aggressive look to our scape. There was a certain fear factor that we wanted to give. So it's looking quite good right now. It's lacking a lot of detail, but we will get there. The less wide, the less depth your tank has, the more it's difficult to really create a sense of depth. So that was something with this tank that was, for us, extremely challenging. So you can see on this shot how narrow the tank actually is. So it is actually a very strange size, especially for a competition tank.
A little bit on the... It needs to be sized down. Yeah.
Don't have to say that the fear factor.
Oh, I like it.
So as you can see here, we've added a lot of very small details into the pathway. So we've added small pieces of dragonwood that we've cut down to really, again, every small piece that we added had to match the same angle as the big pieces of wood that we put in, so everything looked like it was kind of projecting all in the same direction. Kind of looks like kind of a mini explosion, if that makes any sense at all. So this is the moment where they announced the winners. They had announced the team that came third. So in that moment with Eloise, we were like, right, so we're not third. It's either we've completely lost, or we're second, or we have first place. And in that moment, for us and for Eloise, I believe it was her second scaping competition. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eloise. It was kind of a realization. We were like, we're in the top 3, right? We're in the top 3, or we've lost. So yeah, that was kind of a lot of pressure in that moment. During the whole scaping competition, I had blast. I wasn't stressed at all. Me and Eloise got on really, really well. We communicated well. We had the same ideas. Not at one moment when I had an idea did Eloise say no, for an idea I had, and vice versa. So right now, I think you're going to be able to see it, especially Eloise's face. There's a lot of pressure right now.
Our second place team of 2 in our first ever aquascaping competition goes to Emily and Eloise. One of the most creative uses of the elements, an upside-down bucket as a ladder.
So right now, Kazay Sims is trolling me because I was a bit too short to reach into the tank, and I was using a substrate bucket as a ladder. So they found that absolutely hilarious. I'm gonna insert some pictures.
So kudos to this team, using all the elements around them to make the most of the tank. This comes with the glamour of winning, guys. You gotta do the pictures. The price you have to pay.
Oh, look at all of the cameras.
Oh yeah, hi guys. In that moment, yeah, of course it's part of the whole experience having a lot of cameras around, but do bear in mind that this whole scaping event lasted for 4 hours. So for 4 hours, we've had cameras in our faces, and there comes a point where there's only so much you can actually take.
Do you need me to stand on the bucket?
Reference, I'm 163. I'm not, I'm an average height, right? Eloise is extremely tall. So obviously the contrast between us both is quite strong. Is the end of today's video. So thank you very much for watching. I also want to say a big thank you to everybody who is following me along on this YouTube journey. So many of you have been subscribing recently. I'm actually quite shocked, and in the good way. So thank you very, very much. It means a lot. Thank you also to Eloise for sending me this footage and sorting through 4 hours of footage to send me this. Thank you very much. If you guys want to follow Eloise's aquascaping journey on Instagram and on YouTube, I have linked her socials in the description below. And I will see you next Monday for a new video. Thank you very much for watching.